Hi, everybody. Let me adjust this around just a tiny bit here. I had something happen to me yesterday that was just, in a word, crazy. And I'm sure that the police officer that came and helped me, he's probably going to be talking about this one for the rest of his life because, oh my good Lord, it was funny. And it's like, I've never seen this happen before, and I hope I never see it again. But what happened is I went over to meet my mom at her house, and well, she has a little Jack Russell Beagle mix who is just an absolute crazy butt. I've shot videos of her on this channel before, but this dog is, I told Mom this dog, I call the dog Crazy Butt for a reason. I mean, the dog really is a crazy butt. I mean, it's like, oh my Lord, this dog is crazy. She thinks she's a Doberman. You know, she's, if you've ever had a Jack Russell or a Beagle, you know they're talkers. They're like the dogs that, you know, go, whoa, 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 and, you know, they just, you know, they're barking and carrying on, and, you know, they're just, you know, they're all over the place, you know, then they just, you know, and they have little man syndrome where they, you know, she does, that dog, that crazy dog thinks she's a Doberman. You know, she thinks she's this great big dog, and she's this little itty bitty stink pot of a dog, you know. But the good thing is where she's a talker, I know when somebody's at the house, and so does Mom, because, you know, we usually keep the dog outside, and the dog's, excuse me, out there going, oh, row, 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 woof, 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 woof. You know, I mean, the dog's a little talker. She'll let us know when somebody's there. Well, I got there at Mom's house, and, you know, I started messing with the dog like I always do. Like, I'll stop down at the bottom of the hill, and I'll start calling for the dog to see if she'll, you know, just like to, you know, make sure that, for one thing, that she's outside. And secondly, is to make sure she's okay. You know, I get there, and I hear her barking, like, down at the creek like she's after something. I thought, okay, the dog is, you know, it's after something. You know, it's after probably a bunny rabbit or something. Because I have seen bunny rabbits around Mom's house before. You know, ones that are about, like, this big, you know, like the baby bunnies, you know. Well, I thought maybe the dog is, you know, her crazy butt's gone after a rabbit. Or a squirrel, a ground squirrel or something. You know, and she's, you know, out there just, whoa, 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 whoa. She's just, you know, barking and acting the fool and just being, you know, her usual crazy four-legged self, you know, no big deal. I get up to the top of the driveway, and I'm like, usually the dog comes and greets me at the car. She didn't, okay? She did not greet me at the car. She was not at the top of the hill. I started calling the dog. I'm like thinking, okay, you know, I heard her down at the creek, and I'm like thinking maybe she's down there and she's just really after Lord only knows what, you know, and it's just, you know, I started calling her, and I hear her wigging out down there at the creek still. I mean, it's like from the same, like, spot, more or less. And I'm like thinking, okay, what the heck happened here? And it's like, I turned the car around. Like, I called my mom, and I said, I said, Mom, have you seen the dog today? And she was like, no. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I think I heard the dog barking down at the creek. I go, I think something might have happened to her. Like, she might be hurt, or, you know, there's like, she might be up a tree because there's like something after her or something. Well, I get down there and I call her, and I could tell, yeah, she was at the creek. She sounded like she was stuck. It was like she was like in the same spot. And I called Mom, and I said, Mom, do you think I should call 911 or something? She's like, yeah, go ahead and call 911 and, you know, see about getting some kind of help out there, you know, so, you know, I don't have to come out and fall down the hill, or you have to fall down the hill or whatever. And I'm like, okay. Well, this is probably the most unusual phone call I've ever had to make in my whole life. I had to call 911 and say, yeah, I kind of have like a small emergency. I'm like, I think my dog is hurt, but I can't get to it because it's like I might fall. I go like the hill that she's in our creek somewhere. I go, I can't get to her. I'm like, or I'm gonna fall down if I go get her, and you're gonna have to send an ambulance for me if, you know, if I don't, if I go down there and get her, I'm gonna fall on my butt, and you're gonna have to come get me up, And I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm gonna need somebody to come help me because I'm not sure if she's hurt or what's going on, and I'm like, I need help. And I mean, it's like I was afraid the dog might have gotten hurt, and like, I mean, an ambulance has got first aid equipment, and I don't. So I'm like, what is crazy is the 911 dispatcher, and I'm not making this part up, put me on hold. They put me on hold because they couldn't figure out what to do, and she even got on and said, back on and says, I checked to see what we could do for you, and we've never had a call like this before. And I'm like, look, I've never had to make a call like this before, so this is a new one on me too. And I said, well, could you send a cop maybe? I was like, I'm like, because I said, if nothing else, the cop can figure out, if we need an EMT, or there's, if there's something more egregious, or if, he has to shoot the dog or something, or shoot whatever's down there with the dog, or I don't know what, just send a police officer, If all else fails, send the police. I'm like, just send me a police officer. I'm like, maybe between the police officer and myself, we can figure out what to do with the dog, or figure out what's going on with the dog and help it. And they're like, okay, we'll send somebody out to you. And I'm like thinking, great. I'm like, okay, all right, thanks, bye, and I hung up. I'm like thinking, this is like, I've had to call 911 before, and this is like the most unusual situation ever. And it's like the county guy shows up, the county police shows up. And I said, I guess they told him what was going on. This, the dog, I think my dog is hurt. I was like, and I told him, I said, it's a little dog. It's a friendly dog, and my dog is. And I'm like, she's not, I think she's hurt. I'm like, from the way she's carrying on, I think the dog is hurt. And I'm not sure if she's, what's going on. I'm like, because I can't even see her to, tell you what's going on. I'm like, it's like the weeds are too high, and I'm like, I started sliding down the hill towards the creek, and I almost fell. And I was worried about my safety, along with, whatever was going on with the dog. And I'm like thinking, I don't need to fall down and bust my head open like a ripe melon or something. It's not that I didn't want to help the dog. It was more like I couldn't. Because the grass was like that, it just got mowed slick crap, and it's just, you know how grass gets when it's freshly mowed, and it's like, it's like a day or two shy of it raining, excuse me. But it was crazy. What happened is, I started calling for the dog so the police officer could, help. I was helping the police officer find the dog, and as soon as I started calling her, she started barking and carrying on. He's like, okay, I hear her. And he started calling her, and she started barking, trying to, if she could have talked to me and going, help me, I'm here. What ended up happening is he finds her, okay? This is the crazy part. He said, he's like, this dog is up a tree. The dog is up a tree. I'm not making this up. The dog is up a tree. The dog is up a tree. I'm like, oh dear God. The dog is up a tree. What had happened is the tree had kind of fallen down, and it was hollow in the middle, and she had somehow managed to get into the tree, and some wood fell in behind her and blocked her getting out. So the dog was in this tree, this like, and the tree kind of like falling down or something, and she was stuck inside this tree. Like, she was stuck up inside this tree. And couldn't get out. And what he did was he managed to get her free. And he's like, I got her free. And I'm like, oh, good, thank you. I'm like, because I was afraid she was hurt. And I have limited medical training. And I'm like, and I was also afraid, like I said, of falling down the hill and hurting my own self trying to find the dog. Well, he comes out. It's like the dog comes running up the hill through the grass. And I'm like, what are you doing, you little lunatic? And at that point, a second police officer came, and I was like, oh, thank God, you know. And she runs over to me, and I'm like, what are you doing? Are you okay? And I'm talking to Douglas. She's going to answer me, like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm an idiot. I'm a four-legged idiot. You know, I climbed up a tree. You know, the other officer looked at her and said, don't you know dogs aren't supposed to climb trees? And we all had a good laugh on that. I told the officer, I said, hey, thank you. I said, you'll probably tell your kids about this or your grandkids about this one day. You know, because, I mean, really, that is some strange stuff. Yeah, excuse me. And I called Mom back and I said, you're not going to believe what that crazy dog was doing. And it's like, before I came up there, she's like, oh my God, what did that idiot dog do this time? And I'm like, she climbed a tree and got stuck. And Mom went, what? And I said, she's like, you're making this up. I was like, no, that's what the cop said. I'm like, he actually told me this crazy dog climbed a tree and got stuck behind some wood and to help her get out of a tree. I'm like, well, there's worse things, you know, she could do. At least she didn't fall down and, like, break her back legs or something. And then I would have had to have taken her, called the vet and had to have him, you know, operate on her or euthanize her or something. Thankfully, the good news is the dog is fine. At the end of the story, the dog is fine. And, you know, there's no more tree climbing for that dog, I think. I think she learned her lesson, don't you? But it's just, I had to share the story about the dog. Crazy animal. Yeah, that crazy ass dog. I'm like, dear Lord. You know, but we checked her over and, you know, she's fine. She's just, you know, a little ridiculous. Well, anyway, folks, I had to tell you this funny story tonight because it was worth a good laugh and worth a share, alright? I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.